Oh, wait.
Welcome, everybody.
What are you doing?
No. Episode 20. Episode 20. It's here. Episode 20. It's a woo episode 20. 21 episodes technically, but we're going to call this episode 20. Episode 20.
When do we stop saying technically, right? I think we just got to
after a year.
As of episode 20, we're sticking to just episode 20.
So, yeah, we're at a big round number. Episode 20. 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. 20. Welcome, everybody, to the Mid-Geek Crisis. My name is Joe, and my partner in crime,
Pedro, cautious.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Welcome. This is 20 episodes of professional podcasting / show making under our belts. We are 100% professional, guys. Like
that's right. Yes, I am now rocking the standard hoodie. He's got his Steven Universe shirt. Neither one of us have shaved in days. We are as professional as can be.
As professional. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you guys, it is Monday after daylight savings, and we need to abolish it. We're gonna start there.
So this is like a weird, it's an hour, guys. I get it. I'd rather not have to deal with the clock thing and knowing whether time it is every time I wake up every 4 or 5 months. But and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a weird, archaic ritual that we have to go through every 6 months. Who's it for? I don't know, but we still do it.
I don't know.
Is there like a big clock lobby out there that forces us to do it? Like Big Pharma
Big Clock.
It's Big Clock. Big Daylight. That's
big
it.
Daylight. Yeah, Big Daylight's holding us back. They're controlling time. You know, the Time Lords out there make sure that it messes everybody up. I wonder if the Time Lords, like when they use a specific time in their machine, do they have to have calculate daylight savings in the North America, genre? Like time is always changing for us, but not anywhere else in the world. It's weird.
Maybe this is why they haven't been able to successfully time travel, because they're always off by that hour. Like no one in the future understands it, so they're always like, "Wait, do we put it forward an hour?"
They're holding us back. That's what it is. As soon as they turn that off, we'll discover time travel, and they don't want to do that.
It's like a time law that we have to have this ridiculous.
Right. So does that mean that the only people that can time travel are people in Arizona?
Oh, dude, this would explain a lot.
Oh man, no, seriously, I know it's just an hour, but I get up to go to work, and like a month ago when I was on the road, I'm driving down the road,
mm-hmm.
Sunrise is happening at the time that I leave, and then like 2 weeks ago, the sun was up every day when I would already leave. So I'm like, what's going on? Why is the sun out? So now they've kind of reset it. So I guess the daylight savings thing. So now I'm back to darkness when I leave for work.
I hate it. I'd rather have the sun in the morning. It makes no sense to me. I'm
actually the opposite. I prefer that way. I get to work when sunrise happens, which means I start my day, and then by the time I get off work, it's not that big of a deal. I don't know.
Yeah, but don't you wind up like leaving for work in the darkness and then coming back home to work in the darkness?
No. I get home. I leave at 4:30. So 4:30 is technically what 3:30 was before, I guess, for a while.
Don't do that math, man.
Yeah. I'll try not to.
Everyone does that math for like a week. They're like, it's not quite 3:30.
Yeah.
3:30. Just live on with your life. It's
I know.
It's rough. I hate it. I hate that feeling of not knowing. I do like it when it falls back, though, right? Everybody gains an extra hour. So
now we're going to talk on the subject about our podcast in general, and we have kids. And I don't know about you, but daylight savings totally F's with kids.
I see it worse. Again, I see it worse in the fall.
Right. When
you bad this time around. Yeah. The spring forward doesn't really do much for us because she just wakes up at a different time, right? It's no big deal for us.
Right. But the circadian rhythm, I guess is what it's called.
No. I get. Oh, maybe she went down so easy tonight. I don't know.
Well, she's all jacked up from the time change too, I'm guessing. Is it spring break for you?
No, that was last week.
Oh, ours is this week.
Yeah.
So my kids are all at home, and my wife is like.
So we send our kid away. Our school has like a week long. They call it holiday care. So we just send her to the school for another whole week. It's not classes. It's just like
activities.
It's like a summer camp, but it's during the break. But like we're like, it's worth every cent to get her out of the house and away from us. So
Nice.
that's what we do. Yeah.
Parenting.
Plus, it keeps the rhythm going. Like it's sort of
Sure.
like holiday break. The Christmas break really messes up her sort of rhythm, where she's like, "Wait, I'm not going to school for this long. This is awesome." And then suddenly we're like, "We're going to school next week," and she gets all upset, right? She's like, I was having fun iPadding and playing video games, which she doesn't get to do during the school week, right? So
Yeah. So yeah, episode 20, guys. Our agenda is kind of weird this week. We don't have much to talk about.
A standard episode 20, right?
A standard episode 20. I wish we had bigger fanfare. Maybe 21. Maybe the old enough to drink episode.
Here's the deal, right? So like, I know there's Anthem news out there. I don't play Anthem. Division 2 is coming out soon, but I haven't picked it up yet. There's sort of like a weird.
Is it out?
I know they're giving out the codes because my buddy Fulgrim has mentioned that he got the codes. So I think you can start downloading it now. And if you pre-ordered, you might have like 3 days. But I think it's 3/15, right? It launches 3/15 officially.
Okay.
For everybody.
But what does launching even mean anymore in these games? These online Anthem launched.
Suffer through the worst.
Anthem had the giant matrix of like, we're launching here if you paid this much, but if you paid this much, you can play it here. And if you were riffraff and just paid box price, you play it a day after it releases.
I think it's general launch. It's not like opening day for baseball. It's like general. There's a general launch. It's a general launch. I think that's the March 15th. People are waiting for it, right? Because I think a lot of folks are looking to jump ship from what they've been playing, Anthem and all the other.
We're such a fickle bunch. I think. Do you remember back in the day?
We just consume, like, everyone's complaining about endgame content in Anthem, and I'm like, didn't that come out like 3 weeks ago? Like,
yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, because we dump 52 hours into a game that's only been out 48 hours, and then like. We're upset that there's not enough content. I get.
Where's the content? I played this for 50 hours and there's not enough content. I'm like, but 50 hours?
You got 50 hours. I mean, I get that complaint a lot.
That's $1 per hour.
Yeah, so, man. Like if you paid $50 for it, you paid $1 per hour. You're good. You got your content. People complain about RPGs and all sorts of gameplay. Oh, it's only got 17 hours of gameplay. I'm like, that's 17 hours.
Well, it depends on the price. Like I like it. I mean, like I play a lot of the indie games, right? The little ones. Like Celeste, I could beat now in probably like 10 hours, 12 hours if I play it. If now that I'm good enough. Back when I started, I couldn't do it in 12 hours. But that's pretty good for like a $20 game,
because there's replay value in that, right? Like for a game like that, if it's 10 hours, but then there's also like the B-sides, and then they've added like little content.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing now. I'm going back and collecting all the tapes.
Right. So that it gives you like. So back, and again, I'm going to sound old and curmudgeon. Let's get the gray out.
It's all right. That's what the show's about.
Whole show's about. Retro games had like I could beat Super Mario World, Super Mario World or the first one, on NES in a few minutes because of all the warps. Like they literally built in cheats to beat the game as quick as possible. But
let's talk about retro gaming there, because all of the challenges you set up for yourself in those games where you're like speed run, they're all self-made.
They're all self-made.
Right? There's no achievements. There's no developers. I don't think back then developers even thought of that, right? They didn't put a timer in Super Mario Brothers because they were looking to like get people to do speed runs. That's something that the playing community had developed and started to do on their own, right?
Well, they did. We've always, I guess, since Pac-Man and before that, we've had high scores, right?
Of course.
So at some point in time.
That was Achivo, putting your name at the top.
Yeah, putting your name at the top. But Mario has a score keeper. Like every time you pick up a coin, every time you jump on a Goomba, little 100 or whatever comes up, you pick up a star, you pick up a mushroom. You already have a mushroom, pick up a mushroom.
That's a high score, though, right? That's a scoring metric.
But there's no high score board in Mario. It just gives you like, here's your score at the end of the game. If you're playing against Luigi would come up and his score would come up, and so you. Is
that just there because games of that time period had scores? There's a lot of games back then that had scores just because.
But it's an arbitrary way. So now, if you go online and look up their speed runs, and then there's high score runs as well, which aren't as popular. But sure, I mean, if you want to do, or there's 100% runs, right? Like pick up every coin and kill every enemy at least once or whatever. And
how would you even measure that? I guess you just have to watch it. 3.5 hour long video.
A good example is there's the infamous Goomba. There's one Goomba on Super Mario 64 that is unkillable, and he does spawn in the game, but he's unkillable because he spawns in an unreachable area. And so, like, debugging the game tells you that you can never 100% it, like, because there's that one enemy that hasn't been killed.
But you can never 100% it in your own mind, right? The game doesn't have any way of being like, you killed 99 out of 100 Goombas. There's no report that's
right. But it's the arbitrary 100%. Like, you did 100% it, but you didn't. And then there are some games that do have that 100% mark. Like, one of my favorite to run, I don't call it a speed run. I just do a completionist run once a year because I do that. I love retro gaming. One of the games that I play once a year is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. At least right around October, I run through it, and that game has 100%, a 200%, and then a 215 or whatever. So
it's mathematically impossible to do.
Right. So the way it works is the game. For anyone who's a fan, they already know this, but this is more explaining to you. Is the game is the map of the castle,
right?
And every time you walk into the room, it lights it up on your map, and that kind of says that you walked into it. And when you complete the map, it's 100%. But the game has multiple endings, and to one of the endings is you get to the end of the castle, you kill the boss, and then the game over. But if you have a specific item on, you realize that that's not the boss. There's something floating above him. And with special goggles or whatever, you kill that, and that flips the game, and literally a mirror version of the castle appears upside down above it. So the map doubles. So you get double the game. So then you have to run through the game entirely all over again, but with the castle upside down. So spikes that were on the ceiling are now the floor, and you have to use certain maneuvers and abilities like the double jump and the float and all that kind of stuff to kind of get around and traverse it. Once you beat that, it's 200%. And then there's not glitches. They know what they were doing. There's spots in the castle outside of the castle walls that you can kind of fill in the map on, which then make the percent even higher. Yeah.
So I remember playing Castlevania. I remember getting extremely frustrated with it because there wasn't any sort of feedback as to what I was supposed to do or where I was supposed to go.
Right.
It was one of those first. I mean, it was obviously the Metrovanians, where the
Castlevania Symphony. That's where the first one came. Yeah.
And I don't think I ever beat it. And then I played the Curse of the Blood Omen Whip God. I don't know what the heck.
Yeah. Bloodstain.
Bloodstain. Curse of the Moon. Curse of the Moon.
There you go.
Curse of the Moon. That's it. And I immediately remembered everything I found frustrating about the original Castlevania. And it's not because I'm not...
The original Castlevania, right? Because that version of the game is more kind of whip-based, kind of like the...
Yeah, it's like whip-based and like getting on this...
The jumping is very...
Steps.
Yeah.
Will give me nightmares. Like I'm just like, why wouldn't they improve the controls on this garbage game? Like this was garbage.
So it's almost nostalgic to a point that you can't change the mechanic. Like the way you go upstairs is you stand in front of it, hit up, and then you'll walk up them. But if you just hit forward, you're going to walk right past them.
And so you're going to do this, and then go.
Yeah, right.
And then you're going to be like,
if you don't do that.
That monster! I'm up the steps now. Fuck!
It's almost silly to add that mechanic. Like here's a good example where people were like, "Why didn't they do this?" Mega Man, the new Mega Man 11, the one that came out. Mm-hmm. There was a great article on it, which was kind of satirical, but almost like, "Yeah, man, like why didn't you do that?" There's a specific thing that you do in every Mega Man game that when you get to the boss, the gate, you jump and you float.
You freeze, yeah.
You freeze, and then it kind of drags you over, and then you stop, and then you drop. That one.
That's how you know you're winning when that happens.
Yeah, they didn't do that. Like no one has ever walked through a gate in Mega Man. No one just goes click. No, everyone jumps at it and then you freeze and then you do a little like motion in. And they didn't do that in Mega Man 11. Everyone was like, "Is this even a Mega Man game?" Like it was loved. Don't get me wrong. The game had great reviews, but they were like, "Can you patch that in, guys? Like that's what's going on here? Like you can't."
So
do
did
that.
Did you just jump through the gate? Is it
just you jump to it and then you'd hit it and then you'd fall and the gate would open up and then you'd walk through. It's like, right. That's the same thing. I think it's the same type of mechanic. Castlevania is one of those games where you can't change certain mechanics. You can add stuff, but you can't change it for some reason.
One is like an enjoyable nostalgia thing. The other one's a shitty mechanic that they couldn't figure out when you had a D-pad. Like that's. Like what?
Tomato. I mean, it's Mario. I mean, one person's game mechanics is another person's limitations, right?
Like look at Super Mario Brothers, or Zelda. Zelda, you can make a beautifully nostalgic game and still not have to deal with the shitty like game mechanics.
Well, we've changed. So an example here is we've made more Castlevanias. There are other Castlevania games now that don't have the stair problem and all that. Way better. But this particular one, the one that you're playing, is like a retro version of that. Because remember, I talked to you before.
Like it must be weird. Like it's so weird.
You have to
forget all the ways you've made the game get better, and be like, oh no. We're gonna make it so that the player has to stutter steps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And like monsters keep spawning, which I forgot about as well. Like
right, you walk off screen and come back, then that tiger or whatever appears again. The leopard.
What is this stupid game? Why am I hitting all these candles for diamonds? I don't even know what the diamonds do, so I turned it off.
So we talk about a lot of things here, and we don't really talk about retro gaming very often on this channel.
You love it.
I love it. It is my meat and potatoes. I spend more time retro gaming than I normally spend new gaming, even though I like all gaming. The amount of short indie games that I can play remind me of the retro game style because I'm able to just hop in, play a game, and I'm done and then walk out. And so independent games are like that.
Ape Out. Is that the one you do? How is it?
Oh my God, it's so good. And I was going to stream it and I couldn't get a chance to because I was so busy this weekend. But it will happen this week for sure. I'm going to run through it. And let me tell you.
This is the chore of every 40-year-old. I'll do it next weekend.
All right.
Oh, no, something broke. I got to fix the toilet. That's my whole weekend.
Yeah, that was my weekend running chores in the house. I didn't even get a chance to play. Like, I woke up late this Sunday because of the daylight savings thing. I woke up and I was like, what time is it? Like, it's 10? What just happened? So I was so angry about everything. And then I spent the whole day just doing chores. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, I went to bed.
We played State of Decay 2. We got Fulcrum to download it.
I downloaded it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to play it.
Have you done Tutorial Island?
Mm-mm. No, I said I downloaded it. I didn't play it. Jesus Christ. So maybe I'll do it this week. I'll get a chance to it for sure.
I don't know what folks are going to be. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to be playing Division 2 this weekend, which I don't have yet. So
I'm always one game late, bro.
Yeah, no, it's true. I will be very late on this one.
Yeah. So look, just because we're going to run on that retro gaming, I brought it up because yesterday was March 10th, and we wanted to kind of touch two things with one stone here. First off, geeks love holidays. We love making holidays. I think you are one that maybe celebrates in your own head and your own head canon. N7 Day.
I do. I make note of it. I don't evangelize it, but I definitely like, no, it's N7 Day. That's fantastic. Also, May the 4th, I'm going to fully admit I'm having a May the 4th party this weekend. So
there you go. There you go. Tacos and everything?
What tacos? What? Yes, it's Cantina Tacos is what we're going to
say. All right.
Yes. No, my buddy has Armada, and we all want to play it. So finally, we're going to get to play this PAX East, and then I'll be able to play it on May the 4th. So I know. Actually, Jordan has X-Wing, and I have Imperial Assault. So if we could somehow link all three,
can you do that?
Well, they're. I mean, obviously, the Star Wars and gaming community have built campaigns around playing Armada.
Oh man, playing Armada, then like jumping to another
zooming
table
into a fighter plane, and then zooming into an actual fight on land. And then there's
can you add Rebels?
Huh?
Can you add Rebels to it at the end, and then go with the ground forces?
Yeah, that's yeah. So they have Legion. Is that what the game is? The Star Wars with the
Legion.
miniatures.
Yeah. That miniature.
So they have a whole build up for that and things like that, so you can play that way, which would be a blast, right? I don't know that I have that much time in the day to do it, considering I'll still be probably playing off PAX East Family Capital, right? That's
all right.
I'm gone.
So again, N7 Day is a popular day, but yesterday was March 10th, which is National Mario Day, MAR10. Or
when did that happen? I feel like this is the first.
I feel like it started a few years ago. It just became kind of a thing, and someone realized, like someone somewhere was like, "Hey, MAR10 is Mario." Whatever.
So not an official Nintendo holiday. Did they put anything out?
So they did. They've fully embraced it. They put a couple of deals. They put out a video on their Twitter page. They do kind of a big celebration at the New York Nintendo World Store and the Nintendo Store in New York. Mario
Gotcha.
running around taking pictures and whatnot. I saw a couple people on their Instagram feed posting pictures about that.
Love it.
I even posted a quick picture about it because I was sitting there playing my.
It cracked me up. I loved it.
But yeah, we as gamers will find any way, or as geeks will find any way to celebrate our own geekdom, right? And a day like
super specific, yeah, especially when you can like cleverly reference it like that.
Right. So March 10, May the 4th.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So yes. So happy Mario Day or post Mario Day. If hopefully you got to play something or you saw it online and play your Mario game. I don't know my favorite. I've got quite a few favorite Mario games.
Of course you do. Just pick one. You have to pick your favorite one right now, Joe. On the record. Which
right now, my favorite one, Super Mario World.
Super Mario World?
Yeah, Super Nintendo, part 1.
Number 3 for me. Super Mario. I didn't get the Super Nintendo, so my Mario World stopped at the end.
So were you a Genesis guy or did you go to PC? Like, what was your 60?
Well, I was always a PC guy, but Genesis was where we went. So I went Nintendo to Genesis, and then Genesis. I got all the attachments for it, so the CD player.
You built Voltron.
I built Voltron, and then I think I went to PlayStation. I went to PlayStation after.
Wow!
I just kept jumping systems. I didn't really feel the need to be beholden to a particular system.
So you were Nintendo to Genesis. So you went Nintendo, Sega, Sony, Xbox,
Sony, Xbox, right? Because I did PlayStation 2, and then I went to Xbox.
And then you went to the Xbox One or the Xbox 360?
360. I skipped
so you didn't own the Xbox One, right?
Right. Never did.
You don't.
I was like in college too, so I was still PCing, right? PC gaming was pretty much what it was all about, right? Xbox, what is that?
Yeah.
99, 98?
Yeah, same time as PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had it all. It was the.
I don't think what? Come to think of it, it might have been my brother that had the PlayStation 2. I didn't even have the PlayStation 2. It was just like glorious 4 years where all I did was PC game like crazy.
Glorious, PC.
But then I saw the light and was like, this is too much of a hobby. I'm going to go do something else for a little.
Shots fired, folks. Shots fired. Shots fired. Sure.
Not to say that I wasn't playing Civ 6 when you reached out to me just now. So,
PC gaming in general. I was a big PC gamer for a very long time. I kind of missed the 32-bit, the PlayStation 2, Xbox days. I mean, I had them, but I didn't invest my time or money into them. I was a big PC gamer at the time. Yeah. I was into LAN parties. I was playing Quake and Unreal Tournament.
Right, you were the semi-pro or
semi-pro. I did
semi-amateur, whatever the
semi-amateur, whatever. Just went to trade shows and got my butt kicked or kicked a little bit of butt. Did a lot. I used to do competitive capture the flag quite a lot. I loved that. But that was my gaming within that time. So I missed a lot of the 32-bit days, except some of the RPGs, and then I did play some of those because a friend of mine had a PlayStation 2.
That's right. Yeah.
Sony PlayStation 1 was my last big 32-bit. I guess I didn't go PlayStation 2 for a while. I bought one and then I sold it, and then the big jump for me was the Dreamcast. I did buy Dreamcast.
It's funny. This is like, everyone's always, my dad bought a Dreamcast. Like, he was such a Sega, like my dad was a fanboy of Sega and he bought Sega, Master System, Genesis, 32X, and then never bought anything, and then Dreamcast. Like, it was sort of this weird.
So he skipped the Saturn, huh?
Yeah, he did skip the Saturn. No, you know what? I don't think he did.
Did he have a Saturn?
Yeah, he picked up the Saturn, not many games, and then he picked
Let me tell you, so since we're going to talk about this subject and
we're doing retro gaming,
right? Let me tell you my little story about the Sega Saturn. So the Sega Saturn was one of those systems that I always wanted. It was kind of legendary. I was a big Sega fan because I was a Genesis kid. I wasn't a Super Nintendo kid. I didn't get a Super Nintendo until after it was already like N64. I got one post-death, or I guess it never really died.
Yeah, I got same thing with the GameCube. I bought that after.
So I got that, and I would always play everyone's Super Nintendo. Like, I'd go over to my friend's house at Super Nintendo, and I'd run Mario, and I read Nintendo Power. I knew all about it, but I didn't have the money to buy one. But I did get a Genesis from somebody, and that Genesis was my jam. But Sega, the Saturn, was one of those systems that I was like always like, oh man, look at the system, and then it got killed very quickly. It came
super fast.
Super fast. there's a couple of videos that you can watch that kind of tell why the demise of that. They launched it as a surprise launch. As a matter of fact, the Sega of Japan just kind of went, we're announcing it next week. It's coming out next week, and US was not ready. There were no launch titles. It was just a mess. It was a giant mess. But anywho, it was one of the systems that I always wanted. So I got one recently, and I'm gonna talk about something that's kind of
Sega Saturn recently.
Yeah. I finally.
I
say recently within a year.
Does that complete the Sega shelf for you? Or
yeah. It did complete my Sega shelf for me for sure. But the Sega Saturn was one of the systems that I always wanted, and if you don't know, because of the low run of Sega Saturns here, Sega Saturn games are impossible to buy in the market. So you can't find them.
Well, I mean, just like impossible to buy.
Impossible, right. So, I mean, games are like, even the base is like $50-$60 a game. That, very, very rarely. I mean, you could pick up like the basic ones, right? Like Virtual Fighter 2 and Daytona USA and all the intro games for pretty cheap, without a box for like $10-$15. That's not a big deal. But it's like you want to play some of the gems, they've gone up in price. So, also, the Sega Saturn, the way the games are made, they were very cheaply made in the CD. They were early CD games, and they're already falling into the worst of worst, which is called disc rot.
Oh wow, yeah, this is what's going to happen to all the media created in that era, right? This is a sort of like, what are we going to do? How are we going to preserve it? Things
right.
Like that.
So let me, and then I'm going to go not on a tangent, but I'm going to explain some things for people that might be listening that don't know. The retro community in general, some people would call it at one point piracy, right? Like putting a mod chip in and playing games and burning games.
Yeah,
was piracy at one point, but now it's really the only way to preserve things.
I might have known someone who did that with their PlayStation. I don't.
Honestly, hey, you living in New York, I'm sure every bodega had a mod chip guy in the background, just like, hey, you want a mod chip and chopped cheese and a mod chip? I'm sure that's
we didn't have chopped cheeses back then.
Yeah. Oh, it's the new thing, huh? Yeah, I mean everyone, but I'm right. Like every freaking corner store had a dude. They didn't.
Every place where you went to rent video games.
Right. Yeah, you rent them, and then
there was always a dude like hanging out in the corner, be like, "Psst, kid, psst, psst, psst. You got that chip? You got that chip?"
And then they'd sell you a big stack of pirated games for like $10 a piece. Yeah. So piracy was obviously the only. Now we look back on it, it's like, oh my god, this is the only way we're going to be able to keep these games. Like, never take them out of their shelf, never take them out of their box. Just make a copy of them, and then you can burn copies of them and play that version of it as opposed to the original. But that being said, even though the game sits in a box, it'll rot. I've seen pictures of it. It's nasty. It kind of crackles. It looks like scorched earth, and then it just like eats away. So
I think I have some old CDs like that, to tell you the truth. And I was like, what
you pull them out and like they look like they're just cracked. And it's that the disc rot is happening to those. And it's sad because you can't pop in that high school or early college mix CD that you made, because it's probably going to fall apart in your CD player because disc rot.
I don't need to feel those feels, though. That's all right.
You don't need to listen to, what is it, My Worst Enemy? Lit, or whatever.
Breakup mix. 1993. No, thank you. I'm good.
The Matrix theme over and over again.
Well, that's on Spotify.
So. Again, the Saturn, and I'm only going on this tangent because I wanted it so bad, but I can't find any of the games. So now I've got it, and I've got one or two games that I've bought. I spent $60 on just one game recently, and I was like, yes, I got it. And it's a Japanese game.
Which game did you? Oh, you picked up a Japanese game.
So it's a Marvel. What is it? X-Men versus Street Fighter.
Oh, all right.
The Saturn version is almost arcade perfect. It was better than the Sony PlayStation because the Sony PlayStation had low RAM and anime. It's just, there's other reasons. I can go and not talk on that for hours. Anywho, that being said, the Sega Saturn preserving games, a lot of these systems, there's ways of getting around it now. If you're not familiar with flash carts, you could buy flash carts like on your DS, pop it in and put in an SD card and play what you want, right? Piracy. Well, they now make them for
Preservation now is what we're calling
preservation, and honestly, that's what it's become. It's the only way to play some of these games now.
So is there like a? I mean, of course there is. There's like a retro community out there that works hard to preserve these games, does fundraising to buy a game that they can't afford, and preserves it. And things
so to stay topical on this subject, if you didn't read in the news, in the gaming news recently, over the weekend or on Friday, a game has been found. An old unreleased NES game has been found. It's an old wrestling game. It predates WWF. It was basically a WCW game that was going to be made by a company called SETI out of Japan. And what happened is this guy here in the US on Nintendo of America worked there, and they gave him a copy of this game to test. And then the game was canceled, and so it sat on his desk, and he held on to it for years, and then eventually he bought it off somebody. And Lord and behold, here's this game with wrestlers like Ric Flair and all that never released light of day. So they just found it, they released it, and the only way to preserve it now is, since it's the only copy that exists, is they've dumped the ROM. So today in the news, they said the unknown NES game lost for 30 years has now been digitized.
Oh, nice.
So now there's a ROM out there for it, and people can make reproductions of it. Now you can have this game that was pretty much complete. It was ready to go. It just never got the green light. So preservation. It's a way.
Games out there are. Exactly,
there's lots of them. There's a whole series, and there's all sorts of games that you can buy out there that have been reproduced.
I mean, imagine the sort of community back there where you could actually spend the cash on development of a full game and not release it. You know, like even nowadays, like they'll make Alien versus Predator and they have to release it, even if it's a giant turd on the gamers, right? Like even if it's a horrible game, they'll put it out there.
No, I mean, look what happened with that Star Wars 1311 game, that bounty hunter game.
So that was not 100% fully developed.
It wasn't 100% developed, but millions of dollars already been dumped into it, and at least 2 years of development had happened.
That 2 years is nothing. Well, I mean, they cut and run on that. Like that's not.
There's tons of games. There's a whole series. I mean, I'll see if I can find it.
If we were to hack into the servers and download what they had, it would not be a complete game.
For your Apple Watch, go to the Apple Watch app on your iPhone.
All right, Siri.
Siri heard me. No, I agree with you in one regard, where games, they've dumped so much money that they'll release it, but then there's also lots of things that there's a certain point where they do cancel it.
Yeah, but not playable games.
Not playable, not completely playable, but definitely a game engine, definitely assets. Maybe
they've done that for sure.
Sure, and it's sad, especially when it's games that you really want to. You've been waiting for. Infamously, another series near and dear to my heart that I loved from the 32-bit and onward.
We got to get like a list on the board of all the
there's lots of games. You've probably played this one. Play the Soul Reaver games? Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver? No?
No. Sounds too edgy for me. Too edgy.
No.
It's got Soul and Reaver. Come on.
Legacy of Kain, there was a game, part 1 was on PlayStation, and it was kind of a weird RPG-looking game, and then part 2 was Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver, and it was like a vampire, weird...
Is it Legacy, like Cain and Abel? Is that the Cain they're referencing? Yeah. Oh, yeah. God. It's... Yeah. Is it with the K? It's with the K, isn't it?
It's with the K. Yeah.
Oh, I love that time period.
It's so good. But it's a great series, and there was a part 1, part 2, and not a part 3, but then like a mix between the. Anywho, there was a game that was in development for the longest time that everyone was like, finish the story. You left us on a cliffhanger, end the story, and then canceled.
Is that they left you on a cliffhanger?
They left us completely on a cliffhanger. Like the ending is literally like one character dying, and you're like, what's going to happen? What? Hello.
So wait. So the ending was a character dying, but that was a whole insular ending, like the movie.
Yeah, without going into wrong.
Right. I just want to be like,
this character was a character that his soul was trapped in like a sword, eventually, and so like when he died, he became the sword. It's like a. Yeah,
it's fine. That's Chaos Edgelord 5000's character concept for every D&D game. I get it. We're there. This is maybe where it comes from, right? Where the guys show up.
Right. I mean, it was literally a blade that could
I gotcha.
eat souls.
Pull them in like,
yeah.
I got it.
Mm.
And then the game ended, and you were like, "Oh, there's got to be a sequel," or
there's got to be a sequel. I mean, it ended on a cliffhanger, like more to come, and it never came.
Gotcha.
So
other games have done that to us.
So there's a few. There's definitely a few games.
Like there's a few games out there that
there's movie series that happens too.
Oh, all the time. All the time.
That happens all the time. As a DC fan, I live and breathe that genre for sure.
You still waiting for Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern 2?
Dude, you knew what I was thinking. Come on. It wasn't that bad, guys. I've seen far worse movies. That movie was it's bad, but man, he looked great as Sinestro at the end of that movie.
Of the modern era, is it the worst of the modern era films?
No.
Of the modern era, like if you start from Iron Man and you go to today, is Green Lantern the worst?
No. So are we going to encompass everything? You want to go down this road?
No, I don't.
Are we going to talk entire Marvel run, not Disney Marvel, but all of Marvel, including the Fox movies?
So the X-Men movies and the Fantastic Fours. I mean, those are easy, right? That's you're kicking fruit.
Well,
and we're saying, are those worse than Green Lantern?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. Daredevil is worse for sure.
A few of the Wolverines that they made is worse, I think.
Wolverine. The movie Wolverine is worse.
Yeah.
I like the X-Men stuff though. I wasn't. It was more comic booky than. And then
hot take. I hate X-Men 2. I hate it.
Is it X2? Is that the one?
Yeah, hate it.
I don't remember.
People love that movie. People are like, "Oh, it's so good! It's so good! It's so terrible! So
it's
terrible."
Got a lot of mutants, right? I think that one's.
No, 3 is the one with.
Is that the one with the Cure? The second one, or is that the third one? Like, is the third one where Angel shows up for the first time?
Yeah, that's the second one.
That's the second one.
Yeah,
that one really is bad.
It is bad, man. It's terrible. People love that movie. They consider it like the best X-Men movie, and I'm like, no, it's not. First off, Bryan Singer can't direct worth a dang, and
that's a
no.
That's a bold statement.
Hey, you can't.
That's a bold one. Oh,
he did Superman Returns, bruh.
That movie was so bad.
You want to talk about modern era bad? That's a bad movie.
First met and you were defending it, and I was sitting there being like, "This guy can't be serious, can he? He can't be."
I have come to light. And I hate that movie. I hate it so much. It was like Stockholm syndrome with that movie. It was one of those scenarios where I wanted to I was told that I needed to like it, and now I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. Although
I just remember when he got Superman got shivved, right?
That's yeah, that's exactly what he got kryptonite shivved, and then you had to
broken inside of him. That's that's
so many problems. So I'm gonna pick up a whole island of kryptonite. You know,
that's how you create real estate. That's how you do that.
Although to be fair, I feel like Brandon Routh was totally shafted out of that role.
Was that the who played Superman?
Yeah, Brandon Routh, man. He's such a great guy. He's so happy-go-lucky. He's good face, good Superman build, and was given not a very good suit. And just they're like, here, fill Christopher Reeve's shoes. Go. What?
That movie was bad.
Yeah. So yeah. No, Green Lantern. So yes, that happens all the time. Video games, movies, etc. Series
right.
that just die and we don't get sequels. Anywho, back to the quick point that I wanted to make here is preservation of old video games.
Preservation of old video games.
The Sega Saturn. There's now systems, or people are making engineers. Video game retro fans are making hardware to replace CD-ROM drives. So they're emulating the CD-ROM drive. They're removing the laser and replacing it with a piece of hardware that allows you to read like media. So There's a few of them now out there.
Just so you could just play it in your PlayStation case, because it's no longer like you've replaced the engine, right?
You've just replaced the reader, but you're still using the CPU and all of that to render the game. So all you're doing is feeding it the CD data through the original CD port off of solid media. So it's a way for you to like you can drop an SD card and you've got all of your Sega Saturn games, all of your Dreamcast games.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've got one in my Dreamcast now. I've got one on the way for my PlayStation.
I'd like to be able to like one day go to a library and just be like, oh, I want to play the Sega Saturn, and like drop it down and take out some games and just play that way.
I'm sure you could probably do it. There's places like the Museum of Play up in up in Rochester, and I'm sure. I mean, they do have a really big video game collection up there, and I'm sure they've got like ways that you can.
They're not going to let my grubby paws touch their collection, right?
No, sure. Although, what's nice is PAX.
PAX, you can do some retro gaming.
PAX, you can definitely do it. You say you want a Sega Saturn and you want to pull that out, they'll pull it out of the back and drop a game and let you play it.
You hand them your ID, you get to go. So if folks don't know, at PAX they have sort of a council rental area where you can go. They got big rooms set up, and you can go and be like, I want to play the Super Nintendo and I want to play this game, and you hand over your license and boom, you got it. You just go and sit down and you play some Super Nintendo. We played some fun Street Fighter moments in the last day of PAX, which was always a blast.
Yeah. And it's a way to, one of my favorite setups that they have there is they have the entire room dedicated to the Xbox game Steel Battalion.
That's right. Yeah.
And for those that are unfamiliar with that game, is you needed an Xbox, you needed a CRT back in the day because LCDs weren't around, and then you needed the $100 controller dashboard game thing. So it was $100 at the time. That was a lot of money. Now you buy collector's editions for $200, whatever. It's a $100 game, Steel Battalion, and it was a full-on mech console with switches and knobs and lights and
it's crazy to me because like 12 of the switches were just your startup sequence. You never used them again. You were just like lights, oxygen, shields, power. You just flipped them all in the right order and your mech would start up, and that's it. That's all you did with them, but it still made you feel like, oh, you were in that mech, which is
it was pre-VR, pre-whatever. But
your character would perma-die, right, if you didn't hit the eject button in time. So there was an eject button on your dashboard. It was another neat feature of this game.
Yeah. So it was really cool, really immersive for the time. But A, it was $100. B, you never knew anyone else that bought the game. And it was pre-internet, so there wasn't online play. The only way you could really play it was LAN-based. So you had to – I can't imagine, like, being in the year 2001 – give or take, 2001 when the Xbox.
Sure, there was like a fraternity that had like 4 systems.
Yeah. Right? That fraternity that had it, and that was the only way you ever played it. Kind of like everyone dragged their Halo and their Xbox.
Xbox around, yep.
And around that big old TV. That was the only way to play it. That's what you LAN partied it. So yeah, but yeah.
I mean, the equivalent nowadays is like playing Star Trek, the VR version, right? Everyone's got to bring their VR helmets over to the same house and their computers and set it all up in order to run it, right? Who does that?
No one does anymore now. Now it's a
little bit more difficult.
Now we've got laptops. If you want to LAN base, I mean, if you really want to play in the same room together, you can pull out a laptop, and any laptop can play most games nowadays. Who's missing?
I think I can hear that messaging sound.
I know. Let me.
So I could dig that. I could dig that retro gaming because I know a bunch of folks that do sort of old school role-playing games and things like that. Weirdly, like, I don't know that tabletop has ever gone through like a retro phase where they sort of gone back.
Are there not groups of people that play like we only play, like they play Pathfinder 3.5, or they only play? And I say retro because that's not as retro, but it still is like early.
I mean, there are folks that definitely play and design in first and second edition Dungeons and Dragons worlds, right? Or they'll play and design. What I mean, like they'll play and design and sell mods or sell, tools to continue to retro game that way. But there isn't. When I say tabletop, I mean like board games. There isn't really the same sort of community devoted to retro. Like board games have just improved. You don't see folks coming out of the woodwork to sell more advanced squad leader clones to get your retro gaming on. Or
retro gaming is there's people that just want to play the game. right? No matter what, which means that you can. They don't care if they drop it on their emulator on their computer and they'll play the game. They're not in it for exact feeling. They just want to play the game. And
you're saying that some of these nerds get a little obsessive about getting it to be exactly right.
Oh yeah,
no,
that's me. This guy.
No, come on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't emulate much anymore. I have like a.
You get mad at me when my TV was set to 720. You were like, "What is this? My eyes! I can't." What?
Exactly. So I need everything to be as maximum possible, but I need it to be real hardware. I've gotten to that point. So an example here is, and again, I've got like the PlayStation Classic and whatnot, and these things are little emulation boxes that play games, and they don't play them very well, which is sad because Sony released this. But then, you've got things like this. You've got like Raspberry Pis.
Sure.
Computers that you can build and make your own handhelds and whatnot. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with this. That's $5. $5 and an SD card, and if you plug in certain cables, you can plug it up to a TV, and there you go. You've got
and then a whole lot of piracy, right? I mean,
and a whole lot of piracy, and then
which we do not condone. By the way,
we don't condone.
We understand why you do it.
Yeah, and then there's this is my new bad boy, which I've been playing around with, and this is this little thing right here. This is called a Mister. It's called the DE10. And this thing right here is interesting. It is the new age of retro gaming at the moment. It's called the FPGA. It's a CPU. It's a CPU that can be programmed to act like any other CPU. So it's hardware emulation.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So basically, instead of taking your computer and writing a piece of code that says, hey, play this game and
like this,
you're telling the hardware physically, by the way, you are now going to send commands exactly the exact same way that the CPU of this day and age did it. And so it makes everything exact, timing-wise. So when you're playing a game and you got to slow down a specific point, you're going to get that same slowdown. It's going to report all the colors in a specific way. It's going to do things. It's going to talk to the hardware. You could take one of these, and with the right interface, you could plug in an actual physical hardware device from like a Genesis. Like if I wanted to plug in my 32X and interface it with it, there's going to be a way to do it with enough pins.
Wow.
You're taking real hardware, talking to new hardware, plug it in, and you output through modern HDMI. So this is the new thing. This is the DE10.
And you just have it lying around? Are you actually using it?
No, I'm working on it at the moment.
You're working on it. Got it.
Yeah. But
along with all your projects.
Along with all my projects. But what's nice about that one is the group, the Mr. Project is what they're calling it. There's whole engineers, and I say engineers because that's what they are. They got to be. Sure. They're backward engineering hardware. They're taking and creating they call them cores. So they take an entire piece of hardware. A good example is they're working on very specific cores, like Pac-Man. They're taking the original CPU that was on the Pac-Man board, like all the hardware on the
arcade machine.
The arcade machine, and they're ripping it apart, timing and everything, and rewriting it for this. And so when you plug this in and you drop the core on it, you basically say, hey, you are now
Pac-Man arcade.
And it's not running the software, it's physically telling the hardware to act exactly like the original hardware. And so you fire it up and you're going to get the exact slowdowns, the exact like errors and glitches and all of that.
It's so strange to me.
Yeah, it's strange. It's very strange. But you can get it to do, right now there's cores for all sorts of systems. Apple II, you can, old Amigas, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Game Gear.
I can finally play Dr. J versus Larry Bird.
Yeah, there you go. But you play it exactly the way it played on the original hardware, because you actually limit the hardware to act exactly like the original hardware, minus the video output.
Why is that important?
It's important.
Like, I played 1942, and there's so many bullets on the screen that it slows the game down, which often messes me up because I'm expected to move at the same speed. Wouldn't I want it to be better than that?
Yes and no, right? It really depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking to play the game in a competitive light to where you want to play So let's say a good example of this is you're playing a game that you've been playing since you were a kid, and you got your timing set right. You know Battletoads. You know you're playing and you're moving, and you know the timing and the movement, and you know how it's going to act. You know when the enemies are going to come out. If you play it on other hardware or you play it on things that are too sped up, it changes and affects the game clock and the way the timing works. So now it's no longer the original game. It's a
I get it. Like I know big controversies over like modified Donkey Kong boards for the arcade where they change the timing and things like that. So I get that from a competitive standpoint. It seems like that's like a small community.
I guess the reason people love it is you're playing a lot of these hardware machines and games have become really expensive. And when you play them on like an emulator, like on a computer, whatnot, you sometimes don't get it. They don't play perfect. The games are broken because you're limited to the software that's written.
Sure,
but instead of writing new software to execute code from an older system,
why not write new hardware?
Right, you take hardware that's meant to be written, like this piece of hardware was designed to just act like other hardware, and you just say, hey, let's just reverse engineer the actual console, and that way you can throw anything at it, and it'll always play exactly, as opposed to the opposite, where you have to write a piece of software, and then only certain games run right.
It just seems like playing an emulator with extra steps, but I get it. I mean, I get it. I don't know that I'd ever put that much effort into it, but I'm not a nostalgic gamer like you are.
Right. And so it's a little bit of both. How about this? The best analogy I can come up with is this. Let's say you wanted a really fast Mustang. That's an example here.
Sure.
So you take the original Mustang engine and you modify it. And it's still a Mustang. It's still the limitations of what the Mustang had. Or then you rip the freaking engine out of the Mustang and drop a freaking big old, like, brand new engine in it in the body of like a 60-something. You can do that, but it's no longer the original car. You're not really running a 68 Mustang anymore. You're now running a 2015 Ford engine inside of the shell of a...
You want to know the hilarious part?
The thing is, they both get fast.
I was like, why don't you just put a new engine in that car? And why do you? And he looked at me like I said, why don't you take that and put it up your butt? Like it wasn't like it was really like, do you not understand the labor and love I'm putting into this, Pedro?
Right. No, you don't. And so that's what it is, right? So like, it's exactly the same thing. Like, what are you getting? The nostalgia factor is still there, but it's not there. Playing it, there's a level of love that goes into writing these cores where you're...
Sure, I get that. I get the obsessive compulsive.
Another big thing is this. It's not only speed and hardware and playing gameplay, it's sound. So a good example is the Genesis. The Genesis has a specific sound chip that sounds very specific. The Yamaha chip that's in the Genesis sounds very specific. When they've made new versions of it over and over again, the games sound different. The sound sounds like it just doesn't sound the same. And so nostalgia ears will pick it out. Most people won't.
No.
That's all it is. But then you take
I once played probably for a year with a headset that one microphone was broken. Like,
right.
I don't...
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if I maybe am just a terrible person because I don't really fully appreciate things that way. And I appreciate folks who do it, or I should say I'm getting better at appreciating folks who do it rather than being like, God, you're...
It's hipster gaming now.
No,
No, it really is. I won't say it. I won't deny it. It definitely has become kind of niche, kind of like, it's vinyl. It's the vinyl scenario.
I have a person in my D&D group that writes with a fountain pen, right? So like a fountain pen, right? And then I had a guest.
Ink?
Well, I guess you have to load. I don't know enough about the hobby to know anything about it, except that the fountain pen does that and then splits and the ink comes out. Right. That's all I know about
push
it.
And
yeah. I'm not embedded in the hobby, as you will. But it wound up being that I had a guest star who pulled out the same exact fountain pen like style. So now I had two fountain pen.
What are the odds? I don't know one person that writes in a fountain pen, yet you found two?
I have a large graduate school community who play my games. I'm tapping a different world than you. But I'm standing there being like what a world we live in where like
what timeline is this, folks?
Where like two nerds can sit down to play Dungeons and Dragons and then like nerd out with each other about their fountain pen obsessions. And I'm sitting there being like, we got judged for the first one so badly that we never really went after the second one. Like we had dozens we got beat up for that, so we didn't want to add fountain pen and like to it. We didn't want to get beat up for that too. So like I admire it. I admire the kind of folks that are willing to like get that hardcore about something so not worth getting hardcore about in my mind or everyone else's, right? And then I admire the folks that profit from it, right? So like folks now make artisanal fountain pens and ink jars and feeders and all that stuff.
This is artisanal.
That's an artisanal. This is the way I have to think about it, right? This is the artisanal.
It's drinking. It's drinking Jim Beam or drinking an artisanal aged bourbon.
I wish I had one thing that I wanted to make artisanal. Like I wish I had.
It's never too late to find something. Your cynical brain and the way you work, you might be too meh about it, but there is some things. I know there's got to be something that you're really particular about. As a father, as a geek, as someone that doesn't like, I've heard you not rant, but I've heard you definitely say like, I don't. A good example maybe would be when we go to PAX. Like we're not gonna cheap out. Like this is our vacation. We would never like slum it. Like we're not gonna go to like a Days Inn or freaking.
We did, and it sucked. Do it right, and or sleep in the car. I mean that's that in my mind is the difference between purchasing an experience and improving experience than spending your time and money on a artisanal hobby, right? Like coffee. I don't need a good coffee machine. It feeds the machine. Food. I don't need fancy pots and pans to produce my food. Really, if my ideal food can be made in one pan, that's the ideal dinner for me, right? Like I don't want to have to clean anything afterwards, right?
Or you get a jerk to give you a waffle maker.
Right. Yes, which I feel bad about whenever I see it under the counter, not used, because
No. I feel great that it's sitting under your counter, not being used because it's taking up space.
It is. It takes up so much fucking space. So, like,
have you made waffles for Rome for R?
No. You know what? We made them once, and she didn't like them, and I'm like, "What? I don't." Well, here's that's my child. I am convinced is karmic retribution for both Sarah and I. What kid doesn't like waffles? Oh, you know what? My kid doesn't like waffles.
Oh no!
You know what else she doesn't like? Here's crazy: French fries. How did that happen? I love French fries.
What?
My wife loves French fries.
What did you do? What gypsy did you like cut off in traffic?
French fries. I don't know. I don't want to try them. I'm like, just eat them. They're delicious. Even McDonald's French fries, she won't eat. She'll have like one. She'll be, I don't like these. I'm like,
have you checked if she's a lizard?
At least 2 times.
At least twice. No. I feel the same way, man. Like I had a hard drinking introspective like moments in my life where I'm like, here I am pushing almost 500 pounds at one point. I loved food so much. And I've got one kid that won't even eat because he's got an eating.
He won't even put it in his mouth.
Won't even put it in his mouth. And the other one, his diet consists of chicken nuggets and French fries. And it's not like we didn't try to feed him everything. He just chose not to like anything. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, here we have 2 parents that are like foodies to the
Foodies.
max. We just like cook and eat. Like half our joy is cooking and eating and travel and eating and eating and eating. And all of a sudden we can't, like, we can't share that joy with our kids because they're like chicken fingers.
Chicken fingers.
Like, buddy, did you want to try this taco? There's no spiciness on it. Chicken fingers. We go to the Mexican food restaurant. What do you want? Chicken fingers. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, and you can't starve them.
Yeah, that's what the authorities told me. You cannot, you cannot starve your kid. And you know what? If you did, you suffer, right? Because they get so cranky because they haven't eaten. They make.
So you know what needs to happen here? You know what needs to happen? You need to get a family member or a friend to make waffles and then serve them, and then she will eat them.
You're right.
That's what ends up happening. It always ends up happening. You're like, kiddo, you don't like this. This is delicious. And I'm like, but I make them all the time. And then you get that face from the person that served to you. Well, maybe you don't make them good enough, and I make them better. And you're like,
I'm just going to burn this house down. You know what? Why don't you take the kid? I can go home. I can spend that money on other things. You think this kid's so wonderful? Look at me. You're the daddy now. What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah. No, I mean,
at least R likes comic books and she likes video games, right? But she doesn't like to play video games the way I like to play video games.
Not yet.
She'll figure it out. So what? We've got all of these things here with our kids. Let's talk about a subject that we were actually going to talk about. This is great. I like bouncing around this episode, but I want to talk about this because as our kids get older and we're curmudgeon-y and I play artisanal retro games, we've got a whole new thing that makes us feel very old here on a specific topic that you shared with me. So I don't know if folks saw, there's an article in the New York Times this past week. I don't know when exactly it came out. 3/8, so a couple of days ago, maybe 3/1 it came out. About should kids be social media influencers?
I hate that word, by the way.
Influencers? Or it's so that's the rock music's too loud.
I know.
Are
we influencers? No,
not anywhere near. We got freaking 70 fans. Thank you, fans, but no, there's not influencers.
71.
71. Thanks, Mom. So there's that's these. So I guess these. I don't know how it happens, but I guess parents are influencers, and then they have kids, so their kids become part of the sort of influence network. I read this article, and it was about a specific family and their kid influencers, and there's notes that are like, oh, my kid's birthing video, she was born into the influencer world, and I'm just like filled with this real rage about it, but I can't pinpoint why. They're successful, and maybe I'm a little jealous of that, but at the same time I'm just like, why would you do this to your kid? But then I'm like, well, maybe it's not bad for kids, because then I look at my friends' kids that are 12, 13, they're all on TikTok and they're all making short videos and basically being idiots online, which we were idiots in person, right, growing up. So maybe I'm shaking my kid.
Are you jealous that you weren't able to be jealous and be idiots and then online and then make thousands of dollars?
I mean, millions. Some of these,
right?
I mean, millions of dollars, right? So here's maybe my rage is really focused on it. Is the money worth it, right? Because we don't know what we're doing to the kids, letting them do this online.
We already have the roadmap, right? We've got people like Macaulay Culkin, who went through
destroyed,
and now he's got a good comeback in a way. He looks like he's cleaned up, and
But part of that is because we're nostalgic for him, right? We want him to succeed because we feel bad at how bad we used them up.
Well, I mean, isn't it?
I'm just saying,
you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
We're pulling for him because we're like, man, we really did not care for him at all when he was younger. It's a River Phoenix. We didn't care for him when he was younger. We saw him in the Navigators, and then we're like, yeah, River, and then he died of an overdose years later. We just don't care about these people. And I feel worried that these kid influencers are 4 years old who post videos every day online about how they feel about apples, and also directly market products to kids, which you're not supposed to do, right? So it's creepy and weird, and I feel sick to my stomach that we're doing this for money. But like, I'm like, all right, you go get yours.
So you want to know what fuels me with rage here?
I love your.
This is a 4-year-old kid that's able to pump out a video a day. I filmed this on Monday and can barely get it out on Wednesday.
Oh, come on, but we're like 40 and we got like, but also that kid.
But that kid's 4.
That kid's selling Mattel toys.
And Mattel is sending her for free
$15,000. Like they're sending her the toys for free, and she's pushing them for money, right? Like you read this article and the amount of money that these companies are paying these influencers, paying the parents to have their kids do these videos, tells me. And this is where I always get a little crazy, right? When you see a company spend that much money to do something, or an investor invest in a company that's doing that, you know there's something shady about it because they're making more than they're putting in, right? So right away, you know, what you know is that this kid is essentially directly marketing to other children, which is, as I understand it, illegal, right? We can't have advertisements directly to kids the way they do it. It's to the parents or things like media, right? So you can't do it in TV, right? Something to that effect.
Yeah, there's
without making it clear that it's an advertisement,
right?
But these YouTube videos do it all the time, and you know, 9-year-olds are on these YouTubes watching it, even though they're not supposed to be on YouTube, and you know, 9-year-olds are making videos because their parents are supervising them and things like that.
So let me read.
What happens to our kids? What are we going to do to our kids?
Let me read this quote here. Just
children. Here I am, typical.
Samia is now 4 and has 143,000 followers on Instagram.
Sure.
And 203,000 subscribers on YouTube. We have 71. Her feed are mostly populated with posts of her posing and playing, but they also feature paid promotions for brands like Crayola and Homestyle Harvest chicken nuggets. Man.
For the record, nothing calms my child like Homestyle Harvest chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
That's got to be worth $2, right?
It's got to be worth $2 at least. Homestyle, get in touch with us. We're parents. We can be influencers. My kiddo only eats chicken nuggets. You want me to put him on camera?
You just mentioned this, right? That was quite the push. A nice segue into influencers. I don't know that I would feel comfortable. And I hesitate to use the term because parents are always judging other parents, and that's a bad thing we do.
Right.
I hesitate to exploit my child in that way. I hesitate, and maybe there's a better word than exploit, but what else are you doing if all you're doing is posting pictures of your child playing, which I send to, you know, grandma, and hoping to shill products using your kid? That's weird to me. It's weird to me. But I don't know if it's weird to me because I'm an old man, because a lot of people do it, right? Enough so that there's a business model around it, which is intense.
I mean, I don't know if I could ever do it to my kids specifically. And again, this is an if. Let's say, for example, I decide to do a stream one day with my kiddo.
Sure.
And my kiddo ends up getting some sort of following because he's funny, or he might
say hilarious. Your child is ridiculous.
Hilarious. So let's say and again, this is, I mean, some part of me, you know, some part of me inside is like, yeah, man, that would be pretty freaking awesome. But they're not in it for me. They're in it for my kiddo. But that's my kid. He's a product of me in some way. So like, I guess it's a little bit of like, there's like the lizard brain in you is kind of like talking, pulling all sorts of weird like things. That's what's got to be happening with these parents. These parents they're very vain, from what I can tell. They're very fashion centric. They're very beautiful people.
Well, they got to because they're influencers.
They're influencers, right? They're beautiful people, and they've got a beautiful little girl there, and it's creepy.
It's creepy. It's creepy in that I don't know that the child could ever. We were talking about before we started the consent. Like, the child doesn't at all fully I don't think the family fully understands the ramifications of growing up online, right? Like, I don't think we know what's the ramifications of growing up online.
Not necessarily. I was in my teens, like mid-teens, maybe, yeah, when online became something I could really get onto on a daily basis.
Like I struggle with how to teach Romy how to be safe online right now. That's what, because I know all the rules. I know where not to go. I know how to navigate links, but I've got to teach a 5-year-old how to do that because she wants to play games on PBS games, right? Like, and let her do that. So it's and I'm sure this 4-year-old is way more internet savvy than my child. My child has not been online that often. And then there's like creepy moments, right? Because there's a creepy thing in my mind where like Instagram users are supposed to be 13 or above or 15 or above, whatever age of.
But because the parents created the account and then their
parents created the account, but who's following this kid's account, right? The parents that create accounts for their kids or other adults following this account?
It's creepy.
So, like, it's unclear as to who's interacting with this child. And I'm sure the parents monitor. I'm sure they're doing everything right. And I'm trying not to judge. Listen, I'm trying not to judge.
I know.
Right?
I know you're not. I know.
Because people do what they do, and they're going to be, and most time kids wind up okay. But I don't know. I guess I worry that we're all comfortable with it. Like we've never had the conversation as a culture. Like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we should pause a moment. She's literally advertising to children. Do we want? And children spend more time online. Do we want that?
We've talked about this before. We've talked about the videos online with like the grab bag and the opening and all that kind of stuff. They don't pay for those. Companies send them those. You get the Shopkins and all those lol girls.
Even if they did pay for them, they're making good money covering the cost of it. Like even if they did.
But they're only making the money because of the big sponsors and the ads and the revenue that they get. So they're paying for them, but not really. It sounds like it really came out of their pocket. It's just reinvestment from the money that they made. Look, it's all creepy. There's another, this article's one, but I saw one a few weeks back that I didn't bring up on the channel about ASMR videos that are popular right now and kids doing ASMR videos. Oh, there is a level of creepiness that I didn't think I could ever get to, and that's it. There's one particular YouTuber that's pretty popular about being kind of like a rage person, and I'll see if I can find the video and post it. I'll remind myself. But
trying to wrap my head around this.
So so the ASMR concept, right? It's like the talking like this.
No, I know. Yeah,
right. So just for people that don't know, they do this. Well, then you've got kids doing it.
And then they make the sounds, right?
They're like, let's play, and then they're like. But then they're like this little girl has like fake nails on, and she's like, yeah,
so
and then
what they're doing,
right? So then, and then it gets creepier, right? So like one particular video of this little girl that's super popular. She's got like 400,000 followers on YouTube. She dresses up as a cop and pulls over her dad. And then like has like nails and she's popping gum and she's like tapping on the window.
And her dad is like interacting with her doing this.
Yeah, but there's a lot of weird sexual like.
So again, like that could be our bad heads.
No, dude. Like some of the comments, some of the things that she says are definitely.
That's what I imagine.
Like innuendos that were written for her to read, and she doesn't fully understand what's being said.
Why is that a thing?
I don't know, man. But like, who's that for? Kids
and
aren't.
How is she going to feel when she's 17 and the local boys, I shouldn't say this, the local students in that school put the video up on the screen, right? How do I don't know that we're successfully navigating. And I hate that, like, think of the children nonsense, right? And I remember before I had a kid, I was like, think of the children. Let me get my rap video without having to show my ID, right? But I get it now that I have a kid.
There's so much that could be said.
Yeah. Oh. No, I was trying to find that video. I found it.
So I don't know. I'm not gonna watch it. I know enough about the internet not to be made.
No, you don't have to watch the video, but I think I'll put it in our show notes so you can watch it and then you can.
You don't want to give them the views, bro.
No. This particular person that writes about it is pretty.
Gotcha.
He kind of points out everything that's completely wrong about this about this whole subgenre culture. But again, it's the same thing. It's the whole like
that feels more like exploitation than the. I mean,
right.
that makes this kid influencer seem like nothing, right? Daisy's in kindergarten.
Right.
And then what happens when the kid goes to school, right? She's 4, which means she should be going into preschool soon. Or, I mean, does she still produce? Are the other kids going to know who she is? Is she already famous at 5? Right? I mean, 100,000 followers isn't like enormous, but it's. I don't know. I don't know how you navigate that. I guess they're the front runners, right? They're the vanguard of figuring out how to run this, and in 10 years, the kid will be fine, and we'll be fine, right? Or the kid would not be.
Man. They're not. It's no different.
We don't know. We don't know, right? I mean, the kids.
But I keep bringing that up. Like we say, we don't know, but this is the same traps that we've fallen into with child stars in the 80s.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And child. I mean, all these child stars are like damaged people because of this. The internet is now before.
But like maybe
Corey Feldman and Corey Haim and all those kids, it took them they get 2 movies a year and maybe a couple talk shows and whatnot, and maybe the cover of Teen Beat. These kids have to pump out videos weekly, sometimes 2-3 times a week. Their face is out there. There's more content. There's more content of this little girl opening or being a media influencer, hours of footage than there is of all of Macaulay Culkin's career.
You're right.
So while it might not be, it's probably been viewed by more people too. Look how many, like, if you go look at her views of this particular individual, this 4-year-old making videos, she's got 200,000 subscribers, and that doesn't mean just because she's subscribed to her doesn't mean you haven't watched her. Like, I'm sure her videos are like 1 million views, at least.
That's intense.
It's problematic.
It's good to think about. I'd love to talk to other folks who think about it, kidless folks. Kidless, is that the right term? People who don't have kids, and people who do have kids, because it'd be an interesting conversation. I think if we approach it, approach it with
non-cynical eyes. I mean, I don't know.
No, not non-cynical. Just with the belief that no one's doing harm. No one's intentionally doing harm, right? I don't think these parents want their kid to do anything but succeed.
Right.
So I just wonder, like, I mean, and perhaps they have guardrails in place, and this article doesn't tell us anything about the guardrails, right? So maybe this 4-year-old isn't allowed to look at the comments, right? Or has to have it. Like, I don't know what guardrails they have in place, so I'd be curious to see how influencers manage their children, right? Also, I wonder how we're going to handle that from a responsibility perspective, right? What if something terrible happens to this influencer via online, right? Trolls suddenly invade her channel, and she's exposed to something that she shouldn't be exposed to. Who's accountable for that, right? Is it Nobody. The parents? Is it YouTube? Is it like Instagram? You're right. You're right that it's nobody, but somebody should be, right? So I don't know. I'd be curious to see how that kind of stuff develops. And it feels so cynical to be like, well, I guess they're going to be the first ones to suffer it since we're not even talking about it. I mean, I guess the New York Times is, but probably other people are as well. So again, I'd love to hear folks' opinions on it, because I'd love to know what they think of that particular sort of scene. And I don't care about adult influencers; they know what they're doing. They're consenting to it. They understand the ramifications of living their life online. I don't know that kids fully do. I don't know that a 4-year-old can fully appreciate how this could impact her social life at 12 and 14, much in the same way that a child actor would. And I appreciate that you drew that analogy, because it's starting to make more and more sense to me. So
it is. Look, just because I'm kind of putting the numbers in a perspective here, guys, just because it's a big deal. This individual that we're talking about from the New York Times story, I mentioned how many subscribers she's got. Right now she's at 203,000. She's got someone somewhere has written an app for her, so she's got a game.
Oh wow!
Save Samia. It's on the App Store. You can download it on Google Play, and so it's like, so they've made a little game. I guess there she runs around a little cart, whatever. Anywho, she's got a game. She's got 200,000 subscribers. A video that she put up 2 days ago has got 4.8 thousand views. A video she put up 3 weeks ago has 15,000 views. So she averages more than 2K to 3K a video. I mean, the average, I'm looking here, 13,000, 18,000.
That's pretty decent, right? 2,000-3,000.
It's not a big deal.
Not huge.
I think the New York Times definitely picked someone that is not as popular as could be. She's definitely up there. It's probably problematic that they picked this person because now she's a story, which means that
she might blow up.
She might blow up even more. Which is, I
wonder, because her parents are influencers as well. So I wonder if her parents are much more successful. Gosh, you could have a New York Times article written about you with that low. That's interesting.
Right.
But, I mean, again, she's pulling in pretty good money for her. She's got 2,000 people in front of her every day.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know. I don't like kids shilling products.
Her mom has a blog, and she's a featured channel on her page called LaToya Forever, and 1.4 million subscribers.
All right, so this is a sort of
a video that she put up 3 hours ago has 10,000 views. A video she put up 6 days ago has 90,000 views, and
the math works out. She's like 5 times more viewed than her kid.
Right.
So like a good number of her fans just went and followed her kid, and then they just don't bother watching the videos as often.
It's multiple revenue. There's a workout channel dedicated that the mom just does. The workout channel has 10,000 subscribers.
So that's how influence. This is what we need to do if we want to become right. You got to branch out and find multiple niches where people follow you and subscribe you and all that stuff. So that makes sense to me. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I again, at the core of it, I feel uncomfortable with trading a kid's image and personality for money. Mm-hmm. Because the kid cannot consent to her image being used. This is the parents making a decision. And I don't know that the parents, maybe they do. Again, the article doesn't cover it. I don't think they're talking about it. Maybe they are. It's just, it doesn't seem complete, the whole story to me. And,
sure.
I could just be an old man shaking my fist at clouds.
Yeah, no. Again, I
acknowledge that.
I don't think you're completely wrong. I definitely do feel old about it.
Yeah,
her mom,
I feel old about it.
LaToya here, and her husband are definitely 10 years younger than us for sure. They're in probably late 20s, maybe early 30s, maybe. I'm pushing it there. I highly doubt it. But yeah, I don't know.
So they're like YOLO lives.
Right. They're influencers. I mean, they got to be young. I'm not saying that they have to be young and pretty, but let's be honest here. That tends to be the case.
We could have been young and pretty. No. We shouldn't even be doing video. We should just be doing podcasts, right? Anyway, I'd love to hear from folks. Post in the comments. Shoot me messages.
Right. I know that I don't want to end this on a down note. Let's
keep it up.
Let's do one quick upvote story just to kind of like perk everything up, because I feel like we talked about kids and
we could say good internet. Good internet.
One more good internet story, just real quick. I want to touch base on it. Captain Marvel came out over the weekend. Fantastic. Woo! Marvel has a female lead superhero movie finally, which is fantastic. It made $455 million over the weekend.
Worldwide.
103 North America. And I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it tomorrow, which is Tuesday.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
I definitely plan to see it before PAX. So
okay.
That's what I just haven't been able to figure out when.
Yeah, so I'm excited for it. I've heard good things. I've heard some, troubling news as usual with, bad things of
well, the MRA folks are ripping and rending their shirts, and we should have a conversation about that soon, maybe after we both see Captain Marvel. But I mean, they got beat, right? So like here, everyone's excited for this film despite their non-excitement and their attempts to sabotage it. I think Rotten Tomatoes even changed their policy regarding it. Like you can no longer review a film before it's out. Just because they were bombing videos. They did that with Star Wars and all that stuff. My big question to these MRA folks, and even to the folks who kind of flirt with that kind of nonsense, how many movies do we have to put out with male leads before we're all okay with female lead movies? Like how many female lead movies do we have to put out? Because like if the accusation is that Marvel's all just being social justice warrior, they're just doing this to. Okay, I get that. Okay, let's assume that it's right. How many how many movies do we need to put white people in the lead before we're okay with the woman lead movie? Like how many is the right number? How many is the right number of minorities in the films before you say, oh, that's the right number? One more is social justice warrior. That's just my if you can't answer that question, you're just being racist.
Two brown individuals,
you're just being sexist. Like if you can't answer that question, really look at yourself and dig into the core concept of what you're arguing for. You're arguing for more white people on the screen because you don't feel comfortable with the stories that women and minorities can tell. And you know what? I've had to endure white people's stories on the screen, and I feel comfortable with both. Get used to it, right? So, like, think about how.
I agree.
Also, from a positive perspective, think about how more rich your life will be watching a female lead, watching a minority lead, and experiencing their lives, right? You know your life. You know what the white boy life is. Watch another one and experience it, and your life will be richer for it. My life is richer for it. Your life will be as well, just from a positive experience. Stop with that.
I agree.
Just come out there and watch Captain Marvel and enjoy it. It's a fucking comic book film with Captain Marvel blowing up spaceships. How could that be wrong? Like, it's just enjoy it. I need to go see it. We need to talk about it.
We'll talk about it as soon as we both
positive note. Good job. Carol Danvers, good job to Brie Larson.
There was a good story.
Good job to Marvel.
Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, sent out a tweet, congratulating her, saying fantastic, and kind of making it again, guys. It's not DC versus Marvel. It's us versus them. And I think as a geek culture, having two female empowering leads
makes our lives better, richer, all the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. There you go. That's a positive note. Is that a positive note? That's
an excellent positive note. Representation, buddy. Representation.
No, it's true. It's important. It's important. I mean, here's the deal. I finally watched Wonder Woman with R. We watched it maybe a weekend ago or 2 weekends ago, and she's watching it. She's trying to keep track. And Wonder Woman destroys that church tower, spoilers, in the German town. We'll find in the Germans. Do you remember this scene? She jumps up there and she smashes through it. And she turns to me and she goes, Wonder Woman is awesome. And I'm like, that's what we're here for, kiddo. That is what we're here for. Let's do this. So this is, and she hasn't done that with any of the other films we watch, right? So,
right. I mean, there's just, like, again, it's nice to see it. And what I loved about that movie, of course, was what made it great was the fact that it was female directed, and you were still able to get that badass moment, right?
I didn't feel like I had to. I don't even know. I didn't feel any less of a man for having watched this. Right. Like I just. Jeez.
I mean, that's. I hate that we have to. I hate that we have to reference that constantly. But I never thought that would be the case. It's like we're going backwards in time. In some way.
Well, I mean, the old jaw is that when you've been in the limelight and in power for so long, equality starts to feel like oppression, right? So, like, that's what it comes down to. These folks think they're being oppressed and think their lives are being forced changes upon them because they don't see themselves everywhere all the time being in charge. Sorry, right. Life goes on. Welcome to the rest of the world, right? And enjoy it. It's rich, it's beautiful, and I'll see Captain Marvel as soon as I can.
I always wonder.
Let me know if it's good for the kid, because
no, absolutely.
Now that she's seen Wonder Woman, I think she can manage Captain Marvel. So I'm excited to introduce her.
I'm excited to go see it. I'm excited to see all the ¡90s influence, because it is a movie set in the '90s. So we get to hear
got a lot of the music I listen to. So be prepared. A little bit of Hole, a little bit of No Doubt, a little bit of punk rock,
No Doubt, little 311.
It's gonna be awesome. All right, there's the soundtrack. I could just burn that CD and I'd be good to go.
There you go. Make sure to burn it from a CD circa 1990. If not, it won't sound the same.
I know. I want to go back. Maybe I could take a picture of that and put it on our feed. I probably have some rotted discs. I never knew that was like a thing. I thought it just. I didn't store it right or anything like that. That just sort of happens.
It happens, man. We're losing our nostalgia a little bit. Like, we're losing our history, and with that, we chose a media. We chose poorly. The tech wasn't there yet. We chose so poorly.
This is the Betamax inventors. Like, I told you so.
Yeah, man. Like, the VHS guys are like, yeah. So This brick of a Disney tape is still playing, still works here. This ain't rotten.
George Lucas couldn't get to this copy of Star Wars.
Exactly, yeah, there we go. It looks like crap, but you know what? It still plays and it's not going away.
That's good stuff.
What is it? Those Atari carts that were buried in a desert still played. You could pull them out and they unburied them.
You think they would? They probably would.
They did.
They did. All right, I don't know.
They pulled them out. They get click and it played.
And they're like, oh, I remember why we buried this.
Just ripped it out.
Throw it back in the trash.
And that's retro gaming, folks.
That's good stuff.
Guys, follow, like, subscribe. Episode 20 is here and over.
Again, thank you.
Again.
Thanks to our current followers and all the folks who comment.
Yeah. Again, music heretofore. Yeah, guys, we'll see you soon. Hopefully to stream.
Good stuff.
Have a good one, guys.